time for round two! That was way too close. I think I'm gonna start off all my videos like that. Can I get a round of applause? Thank you very much. Thank you guys for joining in today, episode 1. That's still too close. Yeah, better. This is the first episode of Let's Create Redone. Not only redone because I'm refilming it, also redone because I did the series at one point and I'm changing it around a little bit. So, I have ever since I was a little kid wanted to make a game, and this is the series that I'm going to use to help me make it. I want this to be a social series though, meaning that at the end of every video I want to throw out some sort of open-ended question or some multiple choice question, or maybe just some feedback on different parts of the app that we were currently working on, the game that we were currently working on, and kind of gauge what you guys think, because I want to make a game that I know everyone will love. And I feel like showing you what I'm working on and then have you going like, hey, this is option A, this is option B, this is option C. What do you guys think will work the best? And then sort of like having a discussion around that, and then using that discussion to make the game almost crowd built. I mean, obviously I'm going to be the one building it, but have everybody working together to make something that I think will be truly awesome. Now, all the videos in this series are going to detail from the beginning to the end of creating, designing, coming up with the idea of, publishing, posting, making available to the world of this video game. So if you watch this whole series, you'll see the start to finish of making and distributing a game. Some of them will be more technical, some of them will be a little deep dive into the programming. I'm not going to be language specific just because I want to talk about the concepts of the coding rather than the actual lines of code. However, if any of you guys want the actual code or the Java, because I'm making this in Java on Android, of how I did what I did, just throw a comment down and I will be glad to share some of that. But I don't want to make the video boring by going over lines of code. Alright, so let's start episode 1 with, what is a game? A game is I don't know how to say that word, of two main key components on average for most games. This is a blanket statement. One being the engine, two being the content. What is an engine and what is the content? Well, you probably already know, but just in case you don't. The engine is the actual code that makes the game work. And the content is the actual worlds or maps or characters or images or graphics or music that is loaded into that engine. A great example, Super Mario World. The engine controls Mario moving left and right. It controls how enemies react to you when you come on screen, how some of them chase you, how some of them die when you step on them, how some of them will hurt you if you step on them. It controls scrolling the screen to the side. It knows what map and what sprites to, sprite is a technical term for an image of a character or a thing, which ones to draw onto the screen based on what part of the map you're at, and controls all that. That's the game engine. Now, theoretically, when you have a complete game engine, all you have to do is feed it content, and it will spit out more game. In Super Mario World, that would be more worlds, more levels, more characters, what have you. Now that we know what a game is made of, what styles of games are there? Now, I'm not going to be talking genre or type of gameplay. I'm going to be talking about interaction. Meaning, how is the game an experience to you? Well, again, general blanket statement, there are typically two types of games. Three-dimensional games and two-dimensional games. A three-dimensional game would be something like Uncharted, which is a phenomenal game. Great, but it's made with 3D, which games that are 3D require, well, I mean, again, depending on the actual game, much more workers working together because people have to make 3D models. It's much more involved than making something like a sprite or a character image on a 2D game. And obviously, a 2D game would be something like, I said, Mario. Now, those two also mold and break down into subcategories. There is what's called 2.5D, which isn't, I don't think, a technical term, but there are a few different types of 2.5D. One example is superimposed two-dimensional characters and images in a three-dimensional plane. Think of Paper Mario as a great example of two-dimensional characters in a three-dimensional world. Or I even think some of the first Pokemon DS games were two-dimensional character sprites in a three-dimensional world. The other is perspective shift 3D two-dimensional, where game is made in 2D, all the sprites are 2D, everything's a two-dimensional game, it's drawn 2D. However, because of the perspective shift and the way the images are made, the character icons, it's made to look 3D, even though it's not actually three-dimensional. Great example of that is one of my favorite games of all time, Super Mario RPG. A lot of these are Mario games. Super Mario RPG, great game, 2.5D. Superimposed 3D perspective. Something like that. Now, what game are we going to be making? So I wanted to go with something that was, one, feasible for my level of skill, but also something that I really have always wanted to do. And I've already made a couple proof and concepts of this style type of game before. And that is going to be 2.5D, a two-dimensional world, but I'm going to shift images and icons to make it look somewhat three-dimensional. When I was growing up, one of my favorite games to play of all time before the Super Nintendo came out was on Atari. Was it on Atari? It was on Atari. And it was Space Invaders. Came out in 1978, I think? 1978. Phenomenal game, changed the landscape for a lot of games at that time. Very basic game, not super insanely involved or nothing like that. Oh, we understand. We get it, Eric. Come on, move on to the next point. However, it's an easy game to pick up. Easy game to play. It's amazing. About 10 to 15 years ago, Phoenix was a reimagining of that game that came out on TI Calculator, which was a super big, if you were in high school at the time, huge game with everybody. You can check it out here. It was really fun to play. That's the type of game that I want to make. The only thing you really want to pay attention to when you're reimagining a game is to pay attention to the DNA of what made the original so great. With Space Invaders and Phoenix, the greatness of those games was the simplicity, very basic foundation of a game they were. I mean, they ran on an Atari and a calculator. They were basic games. Had really cool retro style graphics. Had leaderboards so you could prove you were the very best. Very best, very best. And were just fun to play and had repeat play value. If you weren't good, you could still play. If you were great, you could play better. And it was awesome. So that's the game we're gonna make. I hope you guys like it. I'm gonna cut this first episode off right here. If you guys enjoyed this, leave a thumbs up, throw some comments down, and next episode, which I'm not sure on this upload schedule yet, next episode we're going to talk about the game field and starting the actual creation of the playing arena, which of course looks like this. But yeah, that's for next time. Till then, doesn't that make sense? And I'll see you then. Bye.